right, let's look towards the finals that start Thursday. Boston is seeking its 18th championship, which would break a tie with the Lakers for the most all-time, while Dallas is seeking to join the 1995 Rockets as the only team seeded 5th or lower to win a title. On the sidelines, Joe Mazzulla is the youngest head coach to reach the NBA Finals since Bill Russell in 1969, while Jason Kidd is seeking to become the 8th person to win an NBA title with the same franchise as a player and as a head coach. Jayson Tatum and Luka Doncic will face off, both having led their team in points, rebounds, and assists this postseason. It's the first finals matchup ever between players who led their team in those categories in the playoffs, so that tells me it's going to be pretty darn good. Tim Legler joining us. But Stephen A., I'm going to tip things off with you here. Who do you think has the most to lose in these finals?
I think it's Jayson Tatum. He cannot play bad in this series. I was listening to Tim Legler earlier this morning on Get Up, and I completely agree with him. He doesn't necessarily have to win the championship. If he plays spectacularly well, but Boston manages to lose because Dallas has two superstars that show up and play sensational as well, then there's no shame in that. What can't happen with Jayson Tatum is that A, Boston loses, and B, he's the biggest reason why. That would be disastrous. He can't emulate his performance from the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. That is unacceptable. Jaylen Brown was a better player than Jayson Tatum was in that Finals. That can't happen again. He's 2 years older. He's 26 now. He's in his 5th or 6th conference finals. This is his 2nd NBA Finals. He's a first-team All-NBA. Him and Luka both being first-team All-NBA. It's only the 2nd time in history 2 first-team All-NBA players looking for their first NBA championships are playing against one another in the NBA Finals. The first was LeBron versus KD in 2012. So we look at all of those numbers. We recognize those statistics, and you add to that the elevation that we've seen from Jayson Tatum. He is a bona fide star in this league. Got a whole bunch of commercials, endorsement deals, etc. Destined to get a $300+ million contract. And you're wearing a Boston Celtics uniform, but you don't have a championship to show for it. They can't look at you and say you're the reason why. If that happens, it will be very difficult. It wouldn't be impossible, but it would be very, very difficult for him to recover from that. He has to make sure he plays spectacularly well. Otherwise, he's going to hear about it for years and years to come.
Stephen A., you're 100% right, and I'll say it this way. I strongly believe this. I think Jayson Tatum has more to lose in these finals than those other 3 guys combined. That's how much is riding with Jayson Tatum. But what I said this morning was Jayson Tatum doesn't necessarily have to be the best player on Boston and they win a title. He's not going to take hits for that, assuming that he plays well. And by the way, I think I know what the floor is for all 4 of these guys. None of these guys are going to flat out not show up. They're all going to have production. What we're going to be talking about is efficiency and shooting on given nights, and then more importantly, how you play in the big spots. And I think there's going to be a lot of them in this series. I think we're going to have compelling fourth quarters throughout this entire series with meaningful moments and who's going to make shots, who's going to make plays in the moment. So I know what the floor is for all 4 guys. They're going to produce. It's going to be those moments that are going to separate and define. And if Jayson Tatum just happens to be outplayed in this series by Jaylen Brown or Luka or Kyrie, or hell, all 3 of them, if Boston wins, it's all that matters to Jayson Tatum. The expectation level that's been put on Jaylen Brown is not the same because of what their status has been in the league, those 2 players, in comparing those 2 guys prior to this point, right? That's first. And then for Luka, look, this is his first time on the final stage, and if he doesn't play well for whatever reason, now he shoots 40%, whatever, they lose, then he's going to have to answer the bell next time, and he's going to carry that with him until he gets that opportunity, just like Jayson Tatum has. He's back on the stage. He did not play particularly well in the finals against Golden State. He's got to answer, but they just have to win. That's most important. And then Kyrie, look, this guy's already a champion. We know what kind of a pressure player he is. I expect him to show up. I don't think any of the pressure of those 3 players remotely compares to what Jayson Tatum is facing in this series. He can't be the headline as to why they lose. That's what it comes down to. You can't be the first talking point. Your poor play as to why the Boston Celtics lost in NBA Finals. Anything short of that, Jayson Tatum's going to be okay.
I guess I'm going to have to make it 3 for 3 because I do believe the most pressure is on him. It's not, playing bad is one thing. When you play bad is worse because he can have a bad first quarter or a bad first half and then play exquisitely in the second half or the fourth quarter or even in clutch situation because that's where the great players really make their name. Kobe and Mike and LeBron and Bird and Magic. It's that last 5 minutes when they nip and tuck. Now, we've seen the Dallas Mavericks be great in clutch all season long. They were one of the 2 best teams in clutch situations all year. That wasn't the case for Boston, but they did show me something against Indy, and I know it's Indy, but at the end of the day, can you operate in that situation? They were down by as many as 8 points. They had been down by as many as 9 points in a couple of games, and they found ways to win those games. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Jayson Tatum operates in that clutch situation because I believe all set of combos will play well. Legs, I also agree with you that Jaylen Brown has never had to deal with the pressure because he was never looked at as the same player as Jayson Tatum is. Around the league, no matter what you think, people view Jayson Tatum as a better player than JB. That's been heaped. JB has never been talked about as the possible potential face of the NBA. That's all that's been thrown around with Jayson Tatum. Maybe it's because he wore the Kobe's, maybe he's close to Kobe, maybe that's what they want. But he's never had to deal with the pressure that's been bestowed upon Jayson Tatum. JT has to play well because he did not play well. We can all agree to that. He did not play well in his first NBA Finals. He must play better, and he has his work cut out for him because the guy on the other side scored the second most points in playoff history behind one Michael Jordan. So you got Luka to deal with, and we know Kyrie is a big shot taker and a big shot maker, and the moment is never too big for him. Jayson Tatum's going to have to come up big. He might not have to win the Finals MVP, but he better play well because Larry Bird won the final. You remember now, in his first NBA Finals, Stephen A., Larry did not win Finals MVP. Cornbread Maxwell did. And he had 2 games in which he scored 8 points, but they won. At the end of the day, it only matters
more recently,
whether you win or
more recently, Steph Curry didn't win the MVP first go-around. That was Andre Iguodala.
Yeah.
So we understand you don't have to win the MVP. You just can't be the reason they lose. Right.
Yeah, but Stephen A., don't you think there will still be critics if he doesn't win Finals MVP after all their trips knocking at the door and not,
Jayson Tatum?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying to you, Molly, no. If he doesn't win the Finals MVP, but they win the championship, and he plays decently well, but somebody like Jaylen Brown or Derek White or somebody steps up, it's not going to be anything. If he loses and he doesn't play well, it's a disaster. He has to play very, very well if they win and sensational if they lose. Because if he doesn't play sensational and they lose, he's going to get blamed for it no matter what.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. By the way, he is the favorite, according to odds makers, to win Finals MVP. No surprise on that.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, it's